show you guys what the best build for him, in my personal opinion. So, since he's a trapper, he starts off pretty slow. He has to set up his traps. He has to set up like pretty much one area of the map. And I think because of that, he just has such a slow start. And I think you have to be very, very careful with him in a certain sense, because like you have to pick, yeah, you're trying to lock down a map and you're trying to actually pick 3 gens that you can fully on protect. And I think that's like pretty much a strong suit. And also, to even buy you more time too, you can also have deadlock as well. So you can actually, when you're putting pressure on survivors and maybe you're actually getting those traps all set up and survivors are stepping into them and, survivors are going down, deadlock is a good way to help you out. I think save the best for last is way better than actually the other perk. Save the best for last, you can actually get a lot of value out of it. Especially, you can actually just pick up the survivor when a survivor is actually trapped, so you don't even have to swing. But if you're like me, though, that actually still wants to get some value out of it, you can also have Surge, because they're in the trap and you can just do the basic attack and they can, lose progression. Even though it's 8%, you're losing progression, right? And if sometimes it's completely RNG for survivors, because when they get into a trap, it might take them a couple tries. And then by that moment, you're already over there and you can just hit them. And then boom, generators are losing that 8%, especially if you're locking down the section of the map where the gens are together. Like these 3 generators are together, then you're getting like a lot of value, because now it's gonna affect a generator. That's all I'm saying. It's gonna affect all the generators pretty close by. So Surge is just really, really good. If you don't have Surge, because how you get Surge is from Demogorgon, you can always replace it for something else. Like you can also get like an end game perk, which might be Noed, or it might be like Remember Me, or it might be even Blood Warden, to try to get like a second chance for you to actually get the survivors. The next killer that I actually really like playing is actually Wraith. I think Wraith is like an awesome killer, and the build that I love doing with him is actually like a complete haste build. So what I like to do is that, since he has his bell, right? So when I find the obsession, I actually like ringing the bell to end the chase. Now, if you have play with your food, right, you also get a 5% haste, right? And that is so freaking amazing. So now you find your obsession, you ring the bell, get into that chase music, freaking end the chase by ringing the bell again, turn invisible, and keep doing that until you get 3 tokens, right? And then you just leave that freaking survivor and you can go somewhere else, or you can keep on chasing the survivor if you want, but you can leave them and you actually go for someone that might be a little bit closer by. And then check this out too. When you hit a survivor with a basic attack, you also get a 5% haste as well with this perk from a Xenomorph, Rapid Brutality, right? So now you're getting even more haste. So it's even more insane with that. So even if you have a 15% haste and you actually hit a survivor, you still keep that 15%. So you can actually get a lot of value from it and just keep on chasing them. It's just so broken with that. That's why I love running the haste build with Wraith. Especially now, there's also batteries included. So you can actually get even more haste. So you have like so much haste now. And it doesn't matter. You're putting so much pressure on the map because you're like freaking Sonic the Hedgehog moving around the map so fast, and you're ending chases so quick, which is why I like, the haste build with them. And then not only that, you also have save the best for last as well, if you actually want to do that, because like I said, chances are you might be leaving your obsession. But let's just say, if you don't play like me, like again, you can also just replace this with like a generator build, like a generator perk, I should say. And you can actually get Scourge, the hook, Pain Resonance. So that way you're even actually putting pressure on the survivors even more, because they get a 20% loss in progress. And it will start to regress. So Scourge or hook can also work just as fine if you don't want to do save the best for last. I was only saying doing the save best for last. You can also do like another perk too. You can also do this one as well, because this one is just boom, 30% cooldown after missing the basic attack. So you can totally do this as well. So Michael Myers is kind of the same way as Trapper in a certain sense, because like you have to set up that time to get out of evil within 1 to go into evil within 2. So that's why I'm actually saying that corrupt intervention also works really well with him. And then deadlock, which we already covered with Trapper, right? Because corrupt intervention buys more time. You can actually have the survivors heading to you. And since they all spawn in together too, you can actually get evil within 2 like super, super fast. You can also, having deadlock as well to block generators is also super important with that. Surge. Now, the reason why I have Surge with him is because when you actually are so let's just say hypothetically, like your evil within 2 is like almost filled up. You're about to be in with evil within 3. You're about to you're just this close, right? So you can actually pop evil within 3, stab that person, and it actually counts as an M1, right? And all generators now will lose that 8% of their progress because you're actually an evil within 3 and you're just going crazy and you're just actually probably if there's like a group of survivors too, you're pretty much just like downing survivors like no tomorrow, right? So you're getting a lot of value with Surge. Blood Warden is also a fun thing to do if you really want to do it like at the last minute, right? It's like, oh my god, we're gonna escape, guys, come on everybody. It is so fun to do that because at least then now you can actually get a second win, and especially if you're super close with freaking being evil within 3. Or if you have permanent evil within 3, because with one of his add-ons, which we haven't been talking about the add-ons because like people want to play it differently. But let's say that you actually want to do this, the unlimited duration of evil within 3, and you have Blood Warden, they're not leaving. They're just not leaving. I think it's actually like a really, really fun build to do on that. Bubba is really fun. I think like I said, I ranked him really high with the tier list, and there's a reason why. It's because his chainsaw is just so good and so easy to use. So that's why I actually picked perks like this, like Scourge the Hook for generator progress to actually be lost. Pop goes the Weasel. So if you have 2 of these perks right here, they're actually losing so much generator progress. And then I also have batteries included, and the only reason why I have that is because when a generator does pop, that 5% haste will help you out to actually end the chase when you actually have a chainsaw. Just like about ready to get up and actually mow down the survivor. And then I have Bamboozle. Now I have Bamboozle because there are some powerful loops that survivors love doing. They love doing these powerful loops, like the Shack is a very powerful loop. There is when they're going around the rock. That's also a very powerful loop. When there is some maps like they have like 2 pallets like near each other, right? And then maybe perhaps they actually are going to leave and go into the shack like I'm saying, right? And actually go in there. It's going to be like, okay, that's a very powerful thing. Or that T and L shape, which I think that's what it's called, right? The T and L, right? That's a very, very powerful loop where they can keep looping the killer, aka Bubba. They're going to be looping you. So if you have Bamboozle, you can be shutting down that loop, and you can also, like I said, force the survivor to be going to somewhere else, to one of the pallets. Freddy Krueger is actually really powerful on his own. I think his build is like pretty OP in my opinion, which is why I ranked him like A tier in the last video. But this is actually the build that I have for him that I think is actually pretty helpful, because since he can teleport to generators, you can also do thrilling tremors. So when you pick up a survivor, and you can actually just look around to see if like anybody is actually on a generator, and if they are, you can just actually teleport to them, and then you can actually be like, oh wow, I'm gonna like get on these people. So you can hook the survivor, teleport, already putting more pressure on survivors. And then you have Pop Goes the Weasel, so when you teleport, you can actually hit the generator and lose that progression. You have Scourge the Hook, which is also when there is actually a hook presence, you can actually pick up that survivor, hook them on the white hook, and then they lose that 20%. And you also have Pop Goes the Weasel, and then you also have Tinkerer. They actually give you even more knowledge, and then also, because if a Tinkerer, if a survivors were just super close to completing the generator, you can just go right over there and actually put pressure on them, which is why I'm thinking like Freddy Krueger is like still pretty powerful, and I think he's pretty good. It's so funny to think that he actually was one of the worst killers in the game to now being like, wow, this killer is actually awesome. So with the pig, I actually love running Lethal Pursuer. Start of the match, survivors are all spawned in together, so you're getting a lot of value from it. And then not only that, the duration is increased by 2 seconds. So that way barbecue and chili comes into play. And when barbecue chili is into play, you're seeing all these survivors, so you're putting more pressure on them by actually leaving the survivor and maybe chasing after them. And then because you also have the whole bomb mechanic too with pig, which is really, really freaking cool, because you put the freaking bomb on them and then they have to be like, oh my god, man, I have to get this bomb off of me. Which is why like I really love the pig as of right now, especially this needed buff. Like I love the buff so far. Save the best for last is really, really good because you actually get stackable successful basic attack cooldowns. And then I also brought Noed, because Noed is actually another good perk to probably, you know, for the end times. You can also use that for your last ditch effort to actually get the survivors. In all, I think Pig is actually really good as of right now, which is why I think we ranked her actually at C tier. I think she is absolutely amazing, so make sure you check out that video. So right now we're going to be talking about Ghostface. So Ghostface, I have Lethal Pursuer because I legitimately just want to get right into a chase immediately, so that way I can use his ability. Barbecue and Chili, just like I said. These perks really work out really, really well together. I have Sloppy Butcher, which actually increases the rate at which healing progress is lost, because survivors are going to try to heal and they're going to be like, oh man, let's actually heal. And then I have Scourge the Hook for a generator losing progression, right? A 20% generator losing progression. I think Ghostface is actually really strong. I think he's pretty good. I think if you want, you can also replace Barbecue and Chili with Nowhere to Hide. Whenever you damage a generator, it reveals the aura of all survivors standing within 24 meters. It's completely optional what you want to do with this, but this is the build that actually has been working out very well for me when it comes down to Ghostface. Now, I keep experimenting with all the killers. Like, keep in mind, there's like so many killers, so which is why I'm like, if you guys have a build, just like leave a comment down below, and I will freaking like do it. Darkness Revealed. We can also try that. When you search the locker, the auras of all survivors within 8 meters of any lockers revealed to you for 8 seconds. Absolutely, you could do Darkness Revealed. I think that's actually pretty good. Now, the reason why I don't know about this perk is mostly because I don't have Dredge unlock, so I actually don't really know his perks. I'm trying. There's so many perks in this game, so it's gonna be like oh man, why didn't you use this perk or not use this perk? And trust me, I want to actually try to find the best perks they could possibly use. This, as of right now, like, to me, this has actually been getting me a lot of wins, this build right here. But obviously, you can find a build that's actually good for you to be like, oh yeah, try out this build. Like, obviously, like, you know, if it's working out for you, then cool, it's working for you. Demogorgon. So I think Demogorgon is so excellent at actually protecting hex totems, which is why I actually am going to be running this build. So we have Discordance, which is basically any generator within a range of 128 meters that is being repaired by 2 or more survivors, marked by a yellow aura. Demogorgon right here is so good at doing protecting hex totems. So good at it, which is why I'm thinking like Devour Hope actually works really, really well. And then I also partner that up with Hex Undying. And then I also try to do this one. Now, keep in mind, when I run this perk, I'm only doing it in test runs. So I think this build, this perk is actually really, really well. Only because when someone is trying to loop you around a car or loop you somewhere like, you know, in a perfect good loop, you can also use this perk. Now, if you don't want to actually use this perk because like maybe there's a better perk, then by all means, go for it. It's just that when I was versing the bots, now I know they're bots, but when I'm versing them and they're actually trying to loot me by the car, I actually decide to use this perk, and I actually get a lot of value from it because this perk right here increases the distance of your next lunge attack by 80%, meaning you can close in that gap and actually get a hit off on the survivor. Then, like I said, the teleporters all around the Devour, like to protect Devour Hope, and you also have Hex Undying to also do that as well, and Discordants. Now, there are some add-ons. Now, I get it. We haven't been talking about the add-ons, but there are some add-ons that can actually get you notifications from if a survivor is close to your teleporter, or, maybe even, if a survivor is trying to ruin your teleporter too, and it's actually harder for them to do it. There is a lot of add-ons. In short, though, this build is actually really, really helpful, and I actually recommend anybody to do this because I think he's super powerful with Hex Totems. Now, another character that I personally think is also really good with Hex Totems is actually Pyramid Head. Now, here's the thing, and this is actually completely fun. I know people are going to be surprised by seeing Haunted Grounds. Now, all this build is nothing but Hex Totems, right? Now, survivors are going to be thinking, oh my god, he's running like a bunch of like a Hex build, right? He's running a Hex build. Survivors are trying to cleanse these Hex Totems. One of them might be Haunted Grounds, and that is just so freaking fun to do. Like, someone cleanse a Haunted Grounds, you can actually, now everyone's exposed for 60 seconds. You can actually be eliminating all survivors, bringing a lot of value to it. But that's just my opinion, though. I know a lot of people would be like, oh, Haunted Grounds is not that great, which is completely understandable. But I just think Pyramid Head is super good with hexes as well. That's why I also brought Retribution, which is a hex that lashes out upon its destruction. Those who cross you will be punished. Any survivor interacting with a dull totem or a hex totem will suffer from the oblivious status effect. So here's another thing too. Let's say for an example, I want to go back to Haunted Grounds for 1 second, because let's just say that if you're really worried about your hex is actually getting ruined, you can also run Through the Hunt, which is basically for each doll and hex totem remaining on the map, right? It will actually take longer for a survivors to cleanse it, right? Which would be like 12%. But I think you can also have Retribution, which is a very, very great perk. Blood Favor, which is that when you hit a survivor, the entity blocks the pallets, which is also a really strong perk. And then Hex Ruin, which is actually a perk that isn't being used anymore because it's, honestly, they nerfed it like so much. But in this case, if you're like me that don't really like kicking gens, Hex Ruin actually is very, very helpful. So with Nemesis, I actually gonna say right now this build right here works pretty well for him because, like I said, I don't really like Nemesis, but Corrupt Intervention helps me out a lot because I need to actually use that tentacle to actually get up to like level 3, which I don't really like very much, but hey, I know, I'm sorry, I don't like Nemesis, but I use Corrupt Intervention so I can get up to a higher level. And then I use Deadlock to also, like I said, to try to actually get up to a higher level as well. I also brought Make Your Choice. The only reason why I brought Make Your Choice is because most of the time for me personally, I like leaving the survivor and actually moving on and putting pressure onto another survivor. And then when I come back, chances are they actually unhook that survivor and I'm just going to actually punch them because, like I said, surprisingly enough, I don't really like using the tentacle. But if I am going to use the tentacle, boom, I have Make Your Choice and I can actually just hit them. And I also have Starstruck because in my personal experience, like I said, when I actually pick up a survivor, so while carrying a survivor, for example, any other survivors within your terror radius suffer from the exposed status effect, right? There's so many people that don't actually expect this perk when it's coming. So when you pick up a survivor, they don't really expect it very much. You pick them up. All these survivors are trying to block you or try to do something for the last stand and actually try to stop you from hooking. And now you have a Starstruck and you can just actually hit them down, right? So I actually like Nemesis, sorta, but I don't think, like, personally, I don't think he should be higher up in ranks. But that's a totally different story. If you guys have a better build for Nemesis, a build that actually will make me go like, damn, Nemesis is amazing, because I'm very welcome in to try in like new builds for Nemesis. It's just that so far this actually has been working. But you know, there's always builds out there that can possibly help me out to actually maybe get better with Nemesis. Now, for Pinhead, I think actually Lethal Pursuer, I actually really like this perk very, very much, because especially in a situation with killers that actually just want to get into a chase off immediately to put pressure. And I also have Dead Man Switch. So when you hook a survivor, Dead Man Switch activates. The first survivor that stops repairing a generator causes the entity to block it for 50 seconds, putting pressure on the survivors. And you can just actually go, put your chain on survivors when they're on a gen, and that actually holds off that generator for 50 seconds. So I love actually putting the chain around that survivor because he doesn't see you, and you actually get that survivor, and then now the gen is blocked, right? And then you also have Scourge Hook, which actually makes you hook the survivor and lose 20% progress. And then you have Noed, because Noed is such a great perk because for endgame purposes, right? I think Pinhead actually has a strong tool within him that you just have to master very well. And man, look at them eyes. Look at them face right now. It's actually really weird to me. It's really strange to me, but okay. But yeah, Pinhead is actually a killer that you have to master pretty well. It's almost like Nurse, where you have to kind of really, really be masterful with him. But in all, though, I think like he's a killer that actually really benefits a lot from Noed, in my opinion, because of the simple fact that you're chaining them and then you can just hit them in one hit. But that's just my opinion. Now, Wesker, I am going to say this right now. Wesker himself, his ability is super, super strong. Like, honestly, if I was ever going to do a live stream where I don't use any perks for a killer, I think I would pick, first of all, I will pick the killer being Wesker, because his ability is just so strong about how he can just charge and he can just actually take down survivors and throw them around. But this is the perk that I do, which is actually the twins right here, which is if you consume 1 token, you actually increase the distance of your next lunge attack. Especially there's some moments in your, some moments you can't really do your ability, right? There's some moments that you can clearly do your ability. If it's like straight ahead, right? The survivor has nowhere to run to, and you can actually just grab that survivor and just toss them, right? There's some moments with that. But this perk right here will absolutely help you out when someone is trying to loop a car, loop a rock, loop something. This is actually a great perk that's going to counter that. And then Blood Favor, because what type of person doesn't love blood flavor, right? You hit a survivor, you do damage to them, and then you're actually blocking pallets, right? And then you're also using this perk that actually kind of go together, right? One and the same, right? Because if someone wants to use a powerful loop, you can also use this perk to actually get them down, right? Thrilling Tremors is also a very good perk on Wesker, because you can pick up the survivor, look around, and actually see where everyone's at, right? And then you can also have Discordance, right? To give you more information about where the survivors are located at, right? So, folks, that's actually the builds of all the killers that I play right now. I know that's not all of them right now, because we need to actually play a lot of them, right? And some of them I just need to refresh my memory with. Like, because to be honest with you, I'm not ready to rank Springtrap. I'm not ready to give the best perks for Chucky, neither for Xenomorph. But like, this is actually, as of right now, like, this is actually the best perks that I love to do for Wesker, which is that, Blood Favor, Thrilling Tremors, Discordance, and then this perk right here, Coup de Grace, right?
Night. Slick shades on my eyes, no fear in sight. I don't just play, I rewrite the rules.